Good Wednesday morning. Henry Blake's here with your WAFB First Alert Weather Extra. Overall, today has been relatively great across South Louisiana, Southwest Mississippi. What I'm going to start out with is our live Sky9 camera. This is at Lady of the Lake Hospital showing Essen Lane, and in the background you can see I-10 east going to the I-10 going south and northbound, or rather east and westbound. But you will notice the sky. Look at that. Very few clouds out there for the moment anyway. The weather is practically picture perfect out there in the capital city. We've got mostly a partly cloudy sky, but you will notice the temperature quickly rising. We were still at 76 the top of the last hour. Now we're bumping up to 82 degrees at Baton Rouge Metro, already at 84 in both Houma and Gonzales, and Patterson as well, 86 for New Iberia. Hammond still at 78, but eventually we are all going to see our temperatures quickly increase. In fact, there is the potential that many of us will be getting to those upper 80s, if not a few low 90s across the region. What does it feel like out there? Already feeling like 90 down in Houma. New Orleans, big surprise, feels like 91. Feels like 85 in the Baton Rouge area. A little bit on the muggy side because we still have that moisture from the Gulf coming into play. So your future cast for today, we're going to see virtually a mix of sun and clouds, but we will have enough instability that could pop up a few spotty showers or isolated thunderstorms. Overall, the day is going to be relatively dry, and I don't think you're going to need any of the rain gear today. That is good news because overall it's going to be a relatively nice day. But you'll notice even as we go into the 8 o'clock hour, maybe a few leftover spotty showers closer to our coastal parishes, extending from St. Bernard Parish and into Iberia, and even parts of Vermilion Parish could get in on a spotty late evening shower or rumble of thunder. But besides that, that's all the wet weather that we got to talk about for the moment. So it is going to be mostly dry, but we do have a big first alert to tell you about. Our next big story is going to be, well, temperatures in addition to dew points. I want to show you a future cast with the dew points. We've got a bit of a slow moving frontal system well to the north. Eventually, over the next 24 to 48 hours, that frontal system is forecast to push south through the deep south. Now, with the numbers that you see here, keep in mind, those are not temperatures, those are actual dew points. And you will notice those dew points behind that front, once we start getting more of that northerly wind, the dew points are going to go down, and that's going to be feeling comfortable across the area. Notice from Atlanta, the Carolinas into Little Rock, dew points are going to be in the 40s. That's the forecast for your Thursday morning, maybe even in the 50s for parts of northern Louisiana. Here across southern Louisiana, we could have dew points mostly in the 60s as we go into, let's say, tomorrow and especially Friday and into the weekend. That's when we get that much drier air plunging into the region instead of that muggy Gulf moisture, and that is going to make it feel more autumn-like, and that's going to allow our temperatures to drop a bit as well as some drier, cooler air pushes in behind that front. So notice for today, Wednesday, we've got dew points in the 70s. The dew points continue to dip, especially over the weekend. So we are going to start feeling the difference as early as tomorrow. You'll feel it on Friday, and definitely over the weekend is probably going to be picture perfect football weather. In fact, the highs are likely going to be mostly closer to normal in the mid 80s across much of the region. A couple of our northern parishes and Mississippi counties may actually reach the lower 80s by the end of the week. So that is going to be great outdoor weather for many of us across the deep south. Now, as far as the tropics, we are still keeping an eye on activity happening out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. You will notice got a hurricane, thankfully for us, out in the Pacific. That's not going to be impacting us, but we got a bit of a tropical wave in the Gulf that is going to be gradually pushing into Mexico, unfortunately for them, giving them wind and rain and possible flooding with that. But as far as here across the deep south and the Gulf Coast region, we are not expecting any impacts from this system, but it does have a very, very low chance of any further intensification before it pushes into Mexico. And we'll be watching another wave in the Pacific kind of traveling along the Mexico coast, which will bring the west side of the country. Unfortunately, another round of wet weather and wind. Now, we're not done altogether with the tropics here across the Atlantic. You'll notice what we've got in the Atlantic moving, that is Tropical Storm Jerry. Jerry is a rather fast mover. Notice 23 mile per hour movement to the west-northwest. This is the 10 o'clock advisory. Max wind 60 miles per hour. So not that far from coming a hurricane. And in fact, it is likely to be upgraded to a hurricane by the end of the week, if not the weekend. But notice we do start to see a little bit more of a north and northeasterly turn. So at the moment, not expecting Jerry to be an impact to the East Coast, but Bermuda this time around not taking a direct hit from the tropical system, but they will still feel an impact with the waves as well as the surge. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone, for your forecast. And be sure to watch 9 News coming up at noon. Jeff Morrow will have the latest information on your weekend forecast, football, as well as Live After 5 coming up this Friday. So we're hoping that you tune in.